I'll never forget the way her eyes changed, how affection quietly shifted into calculation the moment she realized I wasn't as rich as she thought. At least, that's what she believed. Truth is, I just stopped letting her see the real numbers. My name's Ethan Ward, 29, co-founder of a small but growing tech startup in Seattle. 2 years ago, I was the guy who thought love was pure until I met Sophie. She was sharp, magnetic, and had a laugh that could make any room feel lighter. The kind of woman who made you forget to check the bill when the waiter dropped it off. And for the first few months, I didn't. When we met, I'd just signed a major investment deal, and my company's valuation had crossed 7 figures for the first time. I didn't brag, but Sophie noticed the details, the restaurant reservations that never required waiting, the Uber Black rides, the leather wallet that didn't look worn. She once called me her lucky charm. I didn't realize then how literal she meant it. At first, everything felt genuine. She was supportive, ambitious, always talking about building our future together. She'd send me motivational quotes, tag me in power couple reels, and tell me I inspired her to want more from life. But slowly, something shifted. It started with little comments. You should get the upgraded MacBook, babe, you work so hard. We can't be showing up to my friend's party in that old car, can we? Then came the bigger expectations: designer bags, weekend getaways, and a dream apartment downtown that somehow ended up being my lease. I didn't mind at first. I told myself it was love. I wanted her to feel cared for. But one night, while she was scrolling through her phone beside me, I caught her smirking at a message from her friend. Girl, he's basically your ATM face with tears of joy. She didn't notice I'd seen it. That was the night something inside me shifted too. I didn't confront her. I didn't yell or throw her out. I just started planning. You see, I grew up poor. Real poor. And when you grow up counting coins for bus fare, you learn patience, how to move quietly until it's time to act. So I decided to test her. A few weeks later, I told her my company had hit a rough patch. That some investors were pulling out, and I needed to tighten things up for a while. She froze for a second, then forced a sympathetic smile. Of course, babe. We'll get through it together. That was her first lie. Within a month, her texts slowed down. Her visits became busy weekends with the girls. And the "we'll get through it" talk? Gone. One night, she suggested I sell my watch collection to help with bills. The irony was, I'd already moved the collection to a safety box, each watch now worth more than our entire apartment's rent. I started noticing new things about her. The way she dressed sharper when she went out with friends. The way her phone stayed flipped face down on the table. The way she suddenly followed fitness influencers who just happened to live in penthouses. That's when I knew. She wasn't just waiting for me to recover financially, she was shopping for an upgrade. Still, I didn't call her out. Not yet. Instead, I leaned into the role of broke Ethan. I started wearing older clothes, cooking cheap meals, talking about budgeting. She acted supportive, at first. Then her tone changed. It's okay, babe. Some guys just aren't built for pressure. It stung. But I smiled. Because the truth was, my broke phase was just an illusion. My company had quietly tripled in value. We'd secured a major government contract, and I'd moved most of my assets under a holding name she couldn't trace. She thought she was watching me crumble. I was watching her reveal herself. The final hint came one night when she accidentally left her phone on the counter. A message lit up from someone saved as Aaron briefcase. Had fun last night, winking face, hope your broke boyfriend doesn't suspect anything. My heart didn't break. It hardened. That's when I decided the act wasn't over, it was just beginning. Because if she thought she'd drained me dry, she was about to learn the real meaning of empty. You don't notice manipulation when it starts small. It begins with smiles, soft tones, and words that sound like love. That's how Sophie worked. After I told her I was struggling financially, she played the role of the supportive girlfriend perfectly for about a week. She brought over takeout one night, saying, "Don't worry, babe. I've got us tonight." I remember thinking that maybe, just maybe, I'd misjudged her. But support, it turns out, had an expiration date. The next weekend, she started dropping hints. Little barbed comments disguised as jokes. "You used to surprise me with brunch dates. I kinda miss that version of you. My friends are asking if we're okay since we don't go out much anymore." She laughed when she said it, but her eyes didn't. I tried to shrug it off. I told myself stress makes people weird, that maybe she just missed the life we used to have. But deep down, I knew what was really bothering her. It wasn't me she missed. It was the lifestyle. The first real red flag came a few days later. We were sitting on my couch watching TV when her phone buzzed. She picked it up quickly, turning the screen away. Normally, she'd laugh and show me the memes her friends sent her. This time, she tilted her body just enough to hide the messages. I didn't say anything, but my gut twisted. Then she stood up suddenly, pretending to yawn. "I just remembered need to call my mom. She's stressing about some family stuff." She stepped into the hallway, voice low and careful. When she came back, her tone was brighter than before, too bright. She kissed my forehead and said she had to go home early. The next day, her Instagram story showed her at a rooftop bar with two friends, and a few unfamiliar faces in the background. One of them? A tall guy in a tailored blazer, his hand resting casually on the back of her chair. I stared at the photo for too long, feeling that mix of disbelief and cold clarity twist in my chest. Still, I didn't confront her. If she was testing me, I wanted to see how far she'd go. Over the next few weeks, the cracks widened. She began talking about standards and ambitions. Subtle digs masked as pep talks. "You're so smart, Ethan. You just need to push harder. Don't settle for mediocrity." Mediocrity. That word lingered like poison. She'd started comparing me to other guys' friends' boyfriends, her co-workers, even influencers. "You know, Jake just took his girlfriend to Bali, he's so spontaneous. I love how Marcus surprises his girl with gifts. It's just effort, you know." I'd nod quietly, pretending not to notice that every example came with a price tag. Then came the money mistakes. She borrowed small amounts, $40 here, $60 there, saying she'd left her card at home. But the paybacks never came. When I finally hinted at it, she laughed like it was cute. "Babe, you're seriously keeping track? It's just little stuff." It wasn't the money that hurt, it was the entitlement. The next red flag came during dinner at a cheap Italian place I'd picked because I was budgeting. Halfway through the meal, she looked around and sighed. "It's cozy," she said flatly. "Different from where we used to go." Different. That word said everything. The girl who used to be happy sharing fries with me in a parked car now couldn't hide her disappointment in a restaurant that didn't have marble floors. The emotional strain hit me harder than I expected. I'd lie awake at night replaying every conversation, wondering when she'd stopped loving me and started loving my wallet. The silence in my apartment felt heavier now. Even when she was there, she wasn't really there. Her compliments became transactional. Her affection conditional. If I surprised her with something small, like flowers from the corner shop, she'd smile politely, but her eyes would flicker with mild disappointment. "They're sweet," she'd say, "but you used to buy the ones from that boutique florist, remember?" I did. I also remembered that bouquet cost more than my rent back when I was a broke college kid. But I stayed calm. I kept my broke act airtight. Because every time she revealed a new crack in her facade, I added another note to the plan forming in my head. One night, after she fell asleep on my couch, her phone buzzed again. A message preview flashed briefly before the screen dimmed. Had fun last night? Wish you didn't have to sneak out early, winking face. My chest went cold. I didn't touch her phone. I didn't need to. The evidence was already there, glowing faintly like a warning light I'd been pretending not to see. I looked at her, sleeping peacefully under the glow of my living room lamp, and realized something harsh but liberating. I wasn't losing the woman I loved. I was watching the mask fall off the woman who loved my money. And she still thought I was broke. The night I finally saw the truth, it didn't come crashing down, it unraveled, thread by thread, until there was nothing left to hold onto. It was a Friday. Sophie had told me she was meeting the girls for dinner. She'd kissed me goodbye, perfume sharp and expensive, the kind she'd borrowed from my bathroom months ago. I smiled, wished her fun, and watched her leave. But something in her tone that night felt off. Rehearsed. Too smooth. So, for the first time, I decided to stop pretending everything was fine and start paying attention. A buddy of mine, Liam, owned the bar Sophie loved to hang out at. I gave him a call. You working tonight? Yeah. Why? Do me a favor. If Sophie shows up, let me know who she's with. An hour later, my phone buzzed. A single text. She's here. Not with her girls. My stomach sank. I didn't even have to ask who. When I arrived, I parked across the street and watched through the window. The laughter hit me first, hers, bright and familiar, the same laugh that once felt like home. But it wasn't for me this time. Sophie was sitting across from a man in a navy suit, leaning in close, her hand resting on his wrist. She looked radiant. Alive. The guy Aaron looked exactly like the type she used to point out on social media. Polished. Flashy watch. Confidence dripping like cologne. My pulse hammered in my ears. When the waiter dropped the bill, I saw her do something that turned my stomach inside out. She leaned back, smiled, and let him pay. She used to tease me for not letting her do that. Now, she didn't even reach for her purse. I could have walked in. Could have made a scene. But I didn't. Because that's not what this was anymore. This wasn't heartbreak. This was data collection. I waited until she texted me later that night. Hey babe. Dinner ran late. Just got home. Miss you, heavy black heart. My thumbs hovered over the screen. For a moment, I almost replied with the truth. I saw you. But instead, I sent back. Glad you had fun. Get some rest. Then I blocked her location access, set up cloud backups for my shared accounts, and started saving screenshots of every suspicious message and transaction. Over the next week, I pieced the story together like a forensic puzzle. She wasn't just flirting. She was fundraising. Through whispers to her friends, she'd painted me as a struggling tech guy whose business was collapsing. She'd used that pity to justify cozying up to Aaron, a wealthy investor she'd met at a networking event I'd once taken her to. He didn't know she had a boyfriend. Or if he did, he didn't care. She'd been telling him she was looking for business mentorship, a way to build her own brand. But the payments said otherwise. One night, curiosity got the better of me. While she was showering, I opened her phone using her fingerprints, something she'd long forgotten she'd added to mine months ago. Her messages told the story she never would. Aaron, you're not still seeing that broke app guy, right? Sophie, no, it's basically over. I'm just helping him move on. He's sweet but not ambitious enough. Aaron, good. You deserve someone who can keep up. Sophie, someone like you blowing a kiss. I stared at the words until they blurred. Every moment we'd shared, every promise, every whispered I love you felt like counterfeit currency. I should have been angry. I should have thrown her out that night. But instead, I felt cold. Focused. Because the one thing she'd never figured out was that the broke app guy was now worth millions. And she'd been lying to the one person who controlled the narrative. That night, when she came out of the shower, she looked radiant, towel in hand, humming softly. "You okay?" she asked. I forced a tired smile. "Yeah. Just thinking about work." She wrapped her arms around me. "You stress too much. You'll get through it." I almost laughed. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I always do." When she fell asleep, I sat at my desk and began writing an email to Aaron. Short, professional, and sharp enough to cut through his smug confidence. "Hi Aaron. You don't know me, but we've met before at the Seattle Tech Summit. I'm the broke app guy Sophie mentioned. Before you invest any more time or money, I thought you might want to know she's been living in my apartment, funded by my company's income. Every gift she's shown you, every trip has my name on the receipts. Do what you want with that information. Regards. Ethan Ward." I didn't hit send. Not yet. I saved it in drafts because revenge, like business, is all about timing. And Sophie had just given me a master class in patience. As I shut my laptop, I glanced over at her sleeping peacefully on my bed, wearing one of my t-shirts. The same woman who'd told another man she was helping me move on. I wasn't sure which part hurt more, the betrayal, or the fact that I'd seen it coming and still hoped I was wrong. But the hope was gone now. All that was left was strategy. The morning after I read those messages, something in me broke cleanly, quietly, like a rope finally snapping under too much weight. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just sat there, staring at the woman who had built her happiness out of my generosity and my silence. Sophie stirred, hair tangled, still half asleep. She smiled at me the way she always did, soft, practiced, beautiful. The kind of smile that used to make me believe in forever. Now, it just looked like strategy. "What time is it?" she mumbled. "Late," I said. "You should get ready for work." She kissed my cheek, completely unaware that the man she thought was still hers was gone. That day, I went to my office for the first time in weeks. My assistant, Clara, nearly dropped her coffee when she saw me. "Ethan. Wow, you look different." "Yeah," I said, half smiling. "Guess I'm seeing things clearer now." When I walked into the glass-walled conference room, I was greeted by the sight that used to make my chest swell with pride: our company logo, Novasin, glowing on the wall. I hadn't realized how much I'd let Sophie pull me away from this place, from myself. All those months I'd been broke, I'd convinced everyone, even me, that I needed time off to reassess the market. But the truth was simpler. I'd been reassessing her. Now, looking around at the people who believed in me, who'd built something out of nothing alongside me, I remembered who I was before she made me doubt it. I wasn't some desperate guy hoping to be loved. I was a builder. And I was about to build something she'd never see coming. Later that afternoon, I stopped by a small diner near the office, the kind of place where no one cared who you were. The waitress smiled as she poured my coffee. "Rough day." "You could say that." I looked out the window, watching strangers rush by, and the absurdity of it all hit me. Sophie was out there right now, probably smiling at another man the same way she'd smiled at me. Using the same lines. The same fake sincerity. She'd turned love into a business strategy. And for once, I had no intention of being the client. That was the moment it clicked. This wasn't just about heartbreak or revenge, it was about reclaiming control. She had used my wealth to define my worth. Now, I'd show her that taking money from me came with interest. That night, I opened my laptop and began sketching out the blueprint of what I called Operation Empty Wallet. Step 1. Freeze her access. We shared a few accounts: streaming, delivery, a joint card she'd convinced me to open for emergencies. Within minutes, I disabled every login. Step 2. Rebrand the lie. I changed my social profiles to private, archived posts that showed luxury, and started posting subtle hints of financial struggle. I wanted her to think the illusion was holding. Step 3. Gather intel. I called Liam again. You still seeing her around? Yeah. Been showing up with that suit guy. Looks like she's spending his money now. Good, I said. Keep an eye out. But don't let her know you're helping me. Step 4. The reveal. Not yet. But soon. Because before she learned the truth, I wanted her to believe she'd won. The next few weeks were quiet. Sophie grew colder, more distant, always too busy, always tired. When we did talk, it was transactional. She asked questions like, "So, how's the business? You think it'll recover? Do you still have that watch collection? You ever regret not saving more?" Each one of her sentences was a measurement testing how much she could still take. But this time, I let her think she was in control. Every fake smile she gave me only sharpened my resolve. Every lie she told became another nail in the coffin she didn't know she was building. The trigger moment came unexpectedly. It was a Saturday morning. I was at the grocery store, buying coffee beans, when I saw her 2 aisles away, laughing, radiant, holding hands with Aaron. He was pushing the cart. She was wearing the same scarf I'd bought her on our first anniversary. Something inside me went completely still. They turned the corner, and for a split second, her eyes met mine. Her smile faltered. Just slightly. I didn't flinch. I didn't look away. I just smiled, calm, polite, knowing. She panicked. Grabbed his arm. Pretended not to know me. That was it. That was the moment I stopped being her victim and became her consequence. When I got home, I opened my laptop and stared at the unsent email to Aaron. Then I deleted it. She wasn't worth a warning. I'd learned something more powerful than revenge that day. Control isn't about destruction. It's about timing. And if she thought the man she betrayed was broke, then she was about to learn how expensive betrayal really gets. I poured myself a drink, looked out over the city my company helped build, and whispered to the empty room. You wanted a rich man, Sophie? Congratulations! You're about to meet one. Revenge, I learned, isn't a mood. It's a blueprint. If you rush it, it becomes melodrama. If you overthink it, it collapses under its own weight. The trick is to be steady, methodical, invisible, and utterly inevitable. I called it Operation Empty Wallet, but it felt less like malice and more like a tidy audit of everything she'd taken for granted. Step 1. Document everything. I spent nights combing through old receipts, banking statements, and credit card alerts. Every dinner she let someone else pay for, every gift that had my name on the charge, every flight booked under my company's corporate card, I dragged it into the light. I downloaded screenshots of her messages with Aaron, cataloged timestamps, and mapped her movements via photos she'd posted. I created folders. I labeled them. I backed them up to 3 different encrypted drives. Step 2. Reclaim access quietly. She still thought our accounts were joint. They weren't. I had quietly consolidated control over anything that mattered, our shared streaming logins, the subscription she used to cover her social life, the account she thought paid for her brand development. I changed passwords, rerouted deliveries, and cancelled the auto-pay on the card she'd emptied dozens of times. When her morning coffee didn't charge to my account, she assumed it was a glitch. I smiled and called it a feature. Step 3. Create plausible proof of my broke status. To keep her comfortable in her illusion, I leaned into the story. I posted a private message to a few old college friends about tight months and pressing investor issues. I let a few employees overhear scripted complaints about cash flow in the break room. It had to be believable, small, localized, and not traceable to me. The goal was to make Sophie relax, to let her widen her stride. Step 4. Set the social traps. Humiliation isn't necessary, exposure is. I hired a photographer through a mutual contact to accidentally capture Sophie and Aaron at the rooftop bar, photos that would surface later in the most public, believable places, a friend's birthday post, a casual Instagram story, a tagged image with location data. I coordinated with Liam at the bar to gently prod Aaron into sharing invitations publicly. If Sophie wanted to be seen with him, she'd have to be seen with him audible, trackable, undeniable. Step 5: Financial entanglement. This was delicate. I created a paper trail showing I'd transferred a small emergency fund into Sophie's name, nothing illegal, just enough that receipts would link her lifestyle to my resources. I set up a fake joint account for a business project she'd mentioned and funneled tiny, traceable transactions into it. Later, when I exposed the scheme, those transfers would be the algebra that made the accusations concrete. Numbers don't beg for empathy, they demand answers. Step 6: Build the narrative for others. A private conversation with Clara and 2 trusted board members laid the groundwork. I would be the man falling back into recovery mode, while Sophie's new glow would be visible to anyone who knew her. When the truth came out, I wanted colleagues, friends, and Aaron to see the pattern, the sympathy she harvested, the lifestyle she bought, and the receipts to prove it. Reputation is social currency, I would bankrupt hers first. Step 7: The psychological bait. People reveal themselves when they feel secure. So I gave Sophie security. I withdrew from fights, softened my voice, and answered when she called. I let her flaunt little victories, new bags, new dinners right in front of me. Each display made her bolder. Each boldness left breadcrumbs. Step 8: Keep a reveal lever. I drafted 3 versions of a message to Aaron, stern, clinical, and public. Each had a different purpose. The stern one would test his reaction. The clinical one would offer him a choice: cut ties and he'd hear nothing more. The public one, if needed, would expose everything to his network and mine. I didn't send any yet, the lever existed so I could pull it with precision. Night after night, I refined the plan. There were ethical boundaries I wouldn't cross: no illegal hacks, no public shaming beyond the facts, no planting evidence. This was about truth amplified, not distortion. Revenge served better when it was lawful and clean, it left less for others to sympathize with. Sophie continued to live like someone with a new sponsor. She posted curate nights out, tagged flights, and let Aaron's name echo in the captions. She still didn't suspect me. That was the cruel, beautiful part. Her confidence made my strategy work. Tension built like a coiled spring. Every quiet victory, an emailed receipt, a captured photo, a muted account tightened the mechanism. My team noticed subtle changes in my behavior and assumed it was stress. Even my own heart fought the calm I demanded. Late at night, anger leaked into silence. But I slept better, thinking in spreadsheets and timelines instead of accusations. The climactic choice loomed: reveal now and watch sparks fly, or wait until the evidence formed a complete, undeniable story. I'd chosen patience for a reason. Sophie deserved to meet the full weight of what she'd done, not a piecemeal scandal she could deflect. On the night before the showdown, I sat at my desk, the folders open, the photographs printed and stacked like a small deck of cards. I breathed in, and the city lights blinked back at me, indifferent, patient, final. Tomorrow, I thought, she would still feel in control. By the end of the week, she wouldn't know what hit her. And for the first time since this began, I felt less like a victim and more like a man reclaiming what was rightfully his on his own terms. The night of the reveal felt like walking into a movie set I'd built myself. I chose the venue with care: Novocen's quarterly showcase, press, investors, and the city's tech crowd packed into one glass-walled auditorium. It was the one place Sophie loved to be seen, the one place appearances mattered most. She came dressed like she owned the room, arm hooked through Aaron's, laughing with the kind of loudness that demanded cameras. They had no idea the room would become a stage for their unraveling. I spoke first. Not to humiliate, never that, but to be surgical. "Good evening," I said. I want to share a short story about value. My voice was steady, the hum of conversation quieted into curious rustling. Clara, Liam, and 2 board members I'd briefed sat front row. A camera streamed the event live my insurance policy that the truth wouldn't be buried in whispers. On the screen behind me, I clicked the first slide, a simple bank statement with my name blurred, a timestamp, and a highlighted line item. The projector's white square swallowed the room. Flashbulbs popped in the back. Sophie's smile flickered. People think value is how much money you spend on someone, I said. But value is also how much you take and what you build when the taking stops. I hit the clicker. Images rolled up, receipts from 5-star restaurants with my card number, a corporate card export showing nights away charges with her name as the beneficiary, photos from the rooftop bar where I'd photographed her leaning into Aaron, screenshots of messages in which she described me as an obstacle and Aaron as a solution. Each slide landed like a hammer. The room inhaled. Sophie's face went white. Aaron's jaw tightened. He shifted as if a snake had been revealed under the grass. You'll notice something else. I brought up a tab of transfers, small but regular deposits into an account Sophie's name had been attached to a fund I'd set up months ago as bait for the very night. These are not charitable donations, I said. They're receipts. Evidence. For anyone who still imagines this was a story of mutual support. A murmur rose. Phones lit up. Someone started a live thread. The CEO of a competitor leaned forward, an investor I'd once courted looked stunned. I watched Sophie's breathing quicken. She mouthed, "No," and then, "Ethan, stop." I didn't stop. I played the audio clip Liam had recorded Sophie, laughing in the bar, confessing to a friend how she'd made the broke guy feel bad so she could shop guilt-free. The microphone picked up Aaron bragging about finding someone with a pipeline who was too blind to notice. Their voices, private no longer, hung in the air. Aaron stood. This is blackmail," he spat. "Call it exposure," I said. "Call it accountability." I clicked again. A slide displayed an email thread where Sophie had copied receipts to Aaron and described me as her financial fallback. Underneath, a line item I'd prepared for the board, reimbursement requests attributed to personal spending total, $42,700. The room went very quiet. Someone from the press whispered, 42 grand. The number did the work my words had begun. Sophie's eyes darted to the exit. Aaron's face clouded, the confident mask started to crack. Then I hit the lever I'd saved for last. I pressed play on a silent video that I'd arranged to be posted simultaneously to the company's public channel and a private investor list, the same footage of Sophie handing Aaron a stack of receipts, laughing as he promised to cover it. The live feed amplified it across phones in the room. People leaned to watch on their screens, the video's play button reflected in their pupils. The first wave of cameras swarmed. Sophie lunged for my hand. "Ethan, you can't," she said, voice slipping into panic. "We can talk. Please. Please don't." Behind her, Aaron's phone buzzed with messages from people he'd do business with. "We need to talk, is this true? This will affect the fund." I watched his world contract to the size of a ringtone. A woman from an investor firm stood up and asked, "Ethan, are you planning legal action?" The question hung between us like a verdict. I nodded. "Already started. We're auditing any expense tied to the company." I recommended a temporary freeze on any accounts showing irregular personal use. The word freeze landed hard. Sophie started hyperventilating. The cameras loved the chaos. Microphones thrust forward. Reporters circled. Someone recorded Sophie's apology, fractured, weak, then erased by lawyers before the end of the night. She tried to explain, to cry, to fold herself into contrition. Aaron tried to bargain promises, denials, threats. But the receipts were patient, they did not care for pleading or charm. Numbers are stubborn citizens of truth. When security gently but firmly led them out, Sophie stumbling, Aaron furious, the room exhaled as if released from a spell. Cameras followed them into the cold lobby where streetlights turned their faces into newspaper clippings. I watched them pass under the marquee and felt something heavy uncoil inside me. Afterwards, investors called, emails poured in, and the board asked for a closed meeting. I handed over the evidence folders I'd printed and gave a succinct summary: the timeline, the transactions, the communications. No melodrama. No theatricality. Just cold, clear facts. That night my phone filled with messages from old friends and colleagues, some full of sympathy, some full of admiration. But none of it mattered as much as the sight of Sophie's last look back at me, not pleading this time, just hollow recognition that the currency she'd trafficked in had been converted into consequences. I didn't gloat. I simply closed my laptop, walked out onto the balcony, and watched the city lights. The projection screen in the auditorium still glowed faintly behind me, shadows of images I'd used to show the room what she had taken. In the distance sirens threaded through the night, and I felt the strange, quiet satisfaction of a plan executed with precision. Revenge had been a script I followed. Now the credits started to roll. They say revenge is sweet. But I've learned it's not sugar. It's salt. Cleansing. Stinging. Necessary. A month after that night at Novocin's showcase, the city's gossip circuits were still buzzing. Sophie's name trended for 3 days straight, then vanished from social feeds as quickly as she'd once flooded them. Her sponsors pulled contracts. Her influencer deals evaporated. The luxury lifestyle brand she'd built online turned into an empty account of deleted posts and ghosted followers. And Aaron? His investment firm collapsed within a week. The board discovered he'd used company funds to cover Sophie's personal expenses. Lawsuits stacked like dominoes. He tried blaming her, she tried blaming him, and both sank together. Meanwhile, I didn't post a thing. No statements, no explanations. I let the silence speak. People filled the gaps with their own versions. Some said I was brilliant, others ruthless, some even romantic. The truth was quieter than all that. I'd just stopped letting people measure my worth by what I could buy for them. When Novocin's audit cleared, the board made me head of product strategy. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sophie had once joked I'd never climb the ladder unless someone richer gave me a lift. Now, I was the one signing partnership contracts and managing million-dollar launches. Clara stopped by my office the day the promotion became public. She dropped a cup of coffee on my desk and smiled. So, broke, hey? I laughed. Only emotionally. She grinned, but her eyes softened. You know, Ethan, not everyone would have handled it like you did. You didn't just expose her, you turned the whole thing into something meaningful. I shrugged, though her words landed deeper than I let on. I didn't want revenge to define me. Just balance. Later that week, I got a call from Sophie. Unknown number, but I knew the tone even before she spoke. Ethan, please. I just want to talk. I almost hung up. But something inside me said closure wasn't in the silence, it was in hearing what she'd become. She sounded smaller now, her once glossy confidence replaced by trembling honesty. I lost everything. My reputation, my followers, even my friends. I know I hurt you. I was stupid and greedy. And she stopped herself, maybe expecting me to interrupt. I didn't. I thought money made people valuable, she whispered. Now I see I was the one who had nothing. The words hung between us, thin and fragile. I let them breathe for a moment, then said softly, you were right about one thing. What? I was broke. But not the way you thought. I was broke in trust. You just made me realize how to rebuild it. I ended the call. No anger, no satisfaction. Just peace. Weeks passed. Life found rhythm again. I moved into a modest apartment downtown, nothing flashy, but fully mine. I started mentoring young entrepreneurs who couldn't afford big investors, teaching them how to protect their ideas and integrity. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about worth, the kind you can't fake on a bank statement. Sometimes I'd walk past the old restaurant Sophie loved, the one where she used to forget her card so I'd cover the bill. The place had closed down, replaced by a cozy cafe run by a couple who smiled at every customer like they meant it. I went inside once, ordered a coffee, and sat near the window. The city outside pulsed with ambition and illusion, people chasing status, validation, numbers. I understood that hunger too well. But now I knew something they didn't: when people use you for what you have, the only way to win is to take away their illusion and let the truth do the talking. That's the real wealth: clarity. When I got up to leave, the barista handed me a napkin with a quote scribbled on it: "Gold loses its shine in greedy hands." I smiled. Fate had a sense of humor. Before I left, I looked out the window one last time and saw a reflection not of who I was, but who I'd become. Someone who didn't need to prove his value by spending, giving, or pretending. Someone who understood that sometimes, letting them think you're broke is the richest move you can make. Clapperboard to viewers. Have you ever been used by someone who only saw your worth in what you could give them? Did you ever wish you could flip the story, show them what real value looks like? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Would you have played it the same way? And if you've ever been underestimated, hit that subscribe button. Because next time, we're taking back the power one story at a time.